Hello, it's Mark Ochterman again, coming at you through whatever phone or screen you happen to be looking at. I was asked some time ago to talk a bit about Buddhism, and I'm a little uncomfortable doing that because Buddhism is a huge subject. There are lots of Buddhists, there are lots of ways of understanding Buddhism, and I don't propose myself as an apologist for Buddhism particularly, but I have found a lot of value in Buddhism through the years, or in what I have perceived as being Buddhism anyway, which I see essentially as a philosophy, which is to say, I see it first of all as a means to grasp wisdom, and I also find it as a very practical system for approaching the fundamental problem of suffering. And I think I would say to anyone who is curious about Buddhism, first of all, I'd say, if we could speak one-on-one, face-to-face, I'd say, well, what do you mean by Buddhism? Because, again, many people have quite different views of what Buddhism is or could be, quite different from mine, and I don't really want to speak to those perceptions of Buddhism in a general sort of way. I just want to say, there's many different perceptions of Buddhism. So first of all, I do not propose myself as speaking for Buddha, or speaking for Buddhism, or speaking for, even maybe any specific form of Buddhism. But to be honest, I have to say that if I'm lifting ideas that are in the Buddhist tradition, I should describe them as being Buddhist, even if they happen to be some things which I've confirmed from my own experience. I am bound to say that I may have confirmed them from my experience, but I heard of them first through Buddhism, through some text that referred to Buddhism. I think that there have been some things that are recognized within Buddhism that I probably came to entirely independently, but I came to Buddhism also pretty young for a Westerner, even a Westerner growing up in the 60s and 70s. So again, to manifest right speech, it's important for me to say, this is Buddhism. So why look at Buddhism at all? I guess this is a pretty good question. Why look at Buddhism? Or another way of sort of getting at the same question, what is Buddhism good for? And when I have taught a section of a college course on Buddhism, which I did both in philosophy courses and in religion courses, Also in the psychology course, which I taught once, I would say that the real value of Buddhism is that it is a core of practice that is pretty old and pretty sharp and insightful to the human condition. And it is largely no nonsense, get to the point, let's get this done way of approaching psychological problems. That furthermore is, at least some elements of it can be abstracted, can be drawn out from an ethnic or national or specific cultural context, because they are so basic to humanity that they are what we could say universal, at least for humans. And there's a good bit of Buddhist philosophy that can really be taken up and inform a broader understanding of reality than just humanity. And so I spoke about the Four Noble Truths, and what is very significant about this most basic of summaries of Buddhist teaching is that these four elements, that all being suffers, that is to say, all conditioned being suffers. Once you start to understand what that weird language is, I mean, what do these words mean? Conditioned being, conditioned beings. What does this mean? Once you get an understanding of that, the next point, which is that there is a cause of suffering, you even begin to have an inkling of what that is. And then once you get an understanding of the second truth, that there is a cause of suffering, then you begin to see that there could be an end of suffering too, and that's the third noble truth. And once you say there could be an end of suffering, then you think, well, by golly, there should probably be a program by which, that is, a practical approach which I could take, which would bring me to the end of suffering, and wouldn't that be nice? And this is precisely what is valuable about many of the core principles and teachings of Buddhism. They are logical, they are rational, they are compassionate, and they are time-tested and true. You see in numerous examples of people who have encountered Buddhism that their lives have been improved by that encounter. And this is not let me just quickly say that there are other traditions than Buddhism that have these good effects on people. There's no special claim that Buddhism has, but it is particular, and the specifics or particulars of the Buddhist teaching are what commends Buddhism especially. So I think for people who are from other traditions, and particularly for people who come out of a tradition in which there is a God that saves, that redeems, that not only creates but also maintains and sustains and brings about justice and maybe punishes wrongdoers but also rewards the good people. There's a wish to find that in Buddhism, because that is what religion is, right? I mean, if that's true for us, then it must be true for everyone else. And it is possible to find those kinds of elements in Buddhism as well. They are not really the core, because for those aspects to be the core, and again, they are to some degree, at any rate, you can find them in Buddhism. If you search around enough, you can find them. But the core of Buddhism is this understanding of what is the problem. What is our problem as people? Is it that we don't have a correct relationship to God? Is it that we don't have a correct relationship to other people? Maybe yes, but I'm not going to reach to those things until I confront what to me is the pressing problem, which is that I'm not happy. Things are not 100% all the time. And at times when I am happy, at times when I'm not feeling particularly suffering, I got no problem. So what is the human problem? It is suffering. Now, I can also do a program on, say, Christianity or Judaism or Islam or Hinduism or Taoism, and all of those traditions confront this same issue, but they confront it in different ways, and they put their priorities in a different place. So the advantage of Buddhism is that it puts the priority on this very core factor and hits right where people today particularly are most aware, because in the West, at any rate, we have a culture which is the Western culture is a very, insofar as you can speak of Western culture, and we do, it's very rich. It has many different streams. It has many different philosophies that are somehow incorporated into it. There's a tremendous difference between Romanticism and utilitarianism and, the different philosophies that exist in the West. And they're all part of this culture. But the tendency today is, even for people who say, and pardon me for particularizing like this, but I run into this over and over and over again. I am a Christian, people say, and they may even be people who are quite sincere about this. They're not just saying it for no reason. They may be quite knowledgeable about what they think Christianity is about, but Christianity is very diverse, so really what they should say is my Christianity, my own version of Christianity, in the same way that I'm hesitant to talk about Buddhism, and be an apologist for Buddhism as a whole. I should never even have entered into such an arena. But by the same token, and maybe even more so, I hesitate to propose mere Christianity as C.S. Lewis did, and even Lewis entered into that with a good deal of trepidation, which was honest on his part. But even these people who I hear again and again that I'm a Christian, this is what I believe Christianity is about, and they say things that are perfectly valid within the Christian tradition a lot of the time, sometimes not, but very often they do. As though, you know, I can be the judge of all those forms. But maybe more than the average person I can. And yet, the real problem, as I see it, is that they have not fully grasped what it means to I'm trying to think of a good way of phrasing. They haven't found a good way to change their mind. And I use that as a kind of rendering of the Greek word, which is sometimes translated repent. So they're bound into what we call, what is called in Christianity sin, and they are unwilling to recognize what that means, what it means in their life, and the way to get out of it. So let me just say that for those of us who have, like I grew up in a Christian tradition. I grew up in the United Church of Christ, and then for a long time I was also either a member or an attender of Friends meetings, Quakers. And in those contexts, which were very largely Christian contexts, we get lost in language a lot of the time. And so for those of us who grew up in the Christian tradition, or in a Christian tradition, Buddhism offers this further help, which is that here's something from outside of our tradition that goes right to the heart of it. We, in the Christian tradition, talk about sin. Buddhism talks about dukkha, or suffering. And they are, in my view, they are really speaking to the same thing, but taking rather different takes on, or taking different views of the perspective on this. So sin is really fundamentally the view of a separation from God, and dukkha, or suffering, is really a sense of the separation from knowledge. So I'll leave it at that. Buddhism offers good practical insight into the basic problems of human existence, and it is flexible enough to be applied even to, and put this in air quotes, other religious traditions. So they can profit by a Buddhist interpretation to get the benefits of the practical understandings of Buddhism applied to the filter of some individual, national, ethnic, perspective.